Everyone's celebrating Elon Musk's Mars announcements, while NASA's Mars construction program quietly proves rockets are the easy part. The renders look gorgeous, the Starship launches are cinematic, and they're all missing the technology that makes every single rocket irrelevant: 3D printed Martian habitats. This isn't another Starship analysis or Mars render tour. This is about the engineering that actually determines whether Mars colonization succeeds or fails. Here's a number that should keep you up at night: 48,000. That's approximately what it costs to ship a single hamburger to Mars at current launch prices. The bun alone runs you 12 grand. The lettuce? Don't even ask about the lettuce. You can build the most beautiful rocket in human history. You can land it on Mars with the precision of a Swiss watch. And your colonists will still die, not from radiation, not from dust storms, not from the cold, but because you forgot that humans need to live inside something when they get there. Today, I'm going to show you why 3D printed habitats are existentially necessary for any Mars colony, and why the 5 critical breakthroughs that make them possible aren't even being discussed in those breathless launch live streams. Let me be clear about something. SpaceX has done extraordinary things. Landing a booster with chopsticks? Genuinely impressive. But here's what nobody in the Elon fanboy community wants to hear. Transportation is the easy part. On February 8, 2026, Musk himself admitted this when he announced SpaceX was pivoting away from Mars to focus on the moon first. His own words: Mars would take 20+ years while a moon city could happen in 10. The guy who's been promising Mars since 2016 just pushed his own timeline back by half a decade. Minimum. And here's the uncomfortable truth about why. You cannot ship a city to Mars. Dr. Baruch Koshnevis, the inventor of contour crafting, the foundational technology for construction-scale 3D printing, put it bluntly. Even taking 1 pound of material from here to the moon is about $100,000. It's ridiculously expensive. And Mars? Mars is 10 times harder to reach than the moon. And this isn't theoretical. NASA's MOXIE experiment on Perseverance has been producing oxygen from Martian atmosphere since 2021, the first functional ISRU demonstration actually on Mars. It proves the concept works. But MOXIE makes grams of oxygen. A Mars colony needs tons of building material. That's why NASA's Artemis program is treating the moon as a proving ground, testing construction systems where mistakes cost months, not lives. Let's do the math that SpaceX PR conveniently leaves out. Even at Starship's most optimistic projected costs, which, reminder, have not been achieved, shipping materials to Mars runs about $300 to $400 per kilogram. A modest 50-ton habitat, basically a fancy trailer, would cost $15 to $20 million in launch costs alone, before you build anything, before you install a single toilet. Now scale that to a city of 1 million people, which is Musk's stated goal. You're not looking at billions, you're looking at trillions, with a T. This isn't pessimism. This is physics. The only way humans survive on Mars is if they build their cities from Mars itself, using Martian dirt, processed by robots, before any human sets foot on the surface. And that technology? It's not science fiction. It's being tested right now. In 2019, a company called SpaceFactory 3D printed a habitat that outperformed concrete in NASA's own crush testing. Icon, an Austin-based startup, has a $57.2 million NASA contract to develop lunar and Martian construction systems. And at Johnson Space Center, right now, 4 humans are living inside a 3D printed Mars habitat day 162 of a year-long isolation study. The question isn't whether we can 3D print cities on Mars. The question is whether we can solve the 5 brutal engineering problems standing between a printer and a colony. But sure, keep watching those rocket landing compilations. I'll wait. Here's what nobody in the space community will tell you about Mars. The planet is actively trying to murder you in at least 7 different ways simultaneously. The atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide at less than 1% of Earth's pressure. That pressure is so low, it's below something called the Armstrong limit, the point at which exposed liquids boil at body temperature. Your blood, your saliva, your eyeballs, all of it, boiling. Unprotected, you're dead in about 30 seconds. Not from cold, from physics. The average surface temperature is minus 63 degrees Celsius. The swing between day and night can hit 70 degrees. The radiation exposure is roughly 100 times higher than Earth's background, 0.67 millisieverts per day, which translates to about 245 millisieverts per year. For context, the annual limit for radiation workers on Earth is 50 millisieverts. Mars blows through that in 2 months. And the dust? The dust is perhaps the most insidious problem of all. Mars has the largest dust storms in the solar system, wind speeds exceeding 160 kilometers per hour, storms that can envelop the entire planet for 100 to 150 days. And the particles are extraordinarily fine, 1 to 3 micrometers, smaller than Earth soils, capable of infiltrating nearly any mechanical system. Oh, and that dust contains about 0.5% perchlorate, a thyroid-disrupting toxin. Combined with iron oxides and UV radiation, the Martian surface is 10.8 times more lethal to bacteria than UV alone. Imagine standing on that surface. The sky isn't blue, it's butterscotch, and it's trying to kill you. This is why every serious Mars habitat design begins with the same fundamental requirement. You need walls that protect against all of this, and you cannot afford to ship those walls from Earth. The solution is something called ISRU in-situ resource utilization. Fancy words for use what's already there. And what's already there is regolith, Martian dirt composed primarily of basaltic rock fragments, olivine, pyroxene, feldspar, and about 18% iron oxides. That iron oxide is why Mars is red. It's also why Mars can be built upon. But once you understand the constraints that regolith imposes, everything else clicks into place. You can't just dump it in a pile and call it a habitat. You need to transform it, bind it, print it into structures that can withstand pressure differentials, radiation bombardment, and the psychological torture of being stuck inside for years at a time. And that transformation? That's where 3D printing becomes not just useful, but existentially necessary. Let me walk you through the 5 critical technologies that will determine whether Mars colonies are viable or mass graves. And I'm going in ascending order of difficulty, because I believe in building dread properly. Factor 1. The printer itself. Here's the fundamental challenge. Any 3D printing system on Mars must operate autonomously, because communication delay between Earth and Mars ranges from 4 to 24 minutes one way. You can't remote control a construction robot in real time. It has to think for itself. NASA's ACES system, automated construction of expeditionary structures, prints at 500 inches per minute and reduces material needs by 50%. ICON's Vulcan system, the gantry printer that built the Mars Dune Alpha habitat currently housing NASA test subjects, weighs 9,500 pounds and prints with a proprietary concrete called lavacrete. But the most ambitious system is ICON's Project Olympus, funded by that $57.2 million NASA contract through 2028. It uses something called LVMT laser vitreous multi-material transformation. A high-powered laser melts regolith, which cools into ceramic-like structures. No imported binders, no water, just Martian dirt and focused energy. Dr. Koshnevis's original contour crafting technology demonstrated that you can build a 2,000 square foot house shell in under 24 hours. Structures could be made of 90% lunar or Martian material with only 10% from Earth. That 90-10 ratio, that's the difference between a viable colony and bankruptcy. AI SpaceFactory's MARSHA habitat, which won NASA's 3D printed habitat challenge in 2019, was printed in 30 hours, about 550 layers of material. And in January 2025, they achieved the first ever 3D printing in a freezing vacuum in partnership with NASA's Kennedy Space Center. The printers are ready. The question is what they're printing with. Factor 2. The concrete problem. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. You cannot use regular concrete on Mars. Concrete requires water to cure a chemical reaction called hydration. And on Mars, at 6.1 millibars of atmospheric pressure, liquid water cannot exist. It either freezes or boils instantly. Pour wet concrete on Mars and watch it flash freeze while simultaneously sublimating into vapor. The solution? Sulfur concrete. Researchers at Northwestern University, led by Gianluca Cusatis, developed what they call Marscrete, Martian regolith, mixed with molten sulfur. The mix ratio is 50% sulfur, 50% regolith. The result? Compressive strength exceeding 50 megapascals, roughly 2.5 times stronger than conventional Earth concrete, which typically ranges from 20 to 32 megapascals. Here's the beautiful part. Sulfur melts at only 115 degrees Celsius. It's available on Mars, and it cures by cooling, not by water hydration. No water needed. No chemical reaction that can be interrupted by Mars's hostile atmosphere. But there's another option that sounds insane until you realize how elegant it is: human blood. In 2021, researchers at the University of Manchester published a study in Materials Today Bio showing that human blood protein, specifically serum albumin, mixed with regolith simulant, creates a concrete with 300% improved strength over plain regolith. The bonding mechanism is similar to spider silk. They called it astrocrete. A 6-person crew could produce over 500 kilograms of building material over a 2-year mission from their own bodies. But sure, we'll figure out the building materials thing later. That always works out. Factor 3, radiation shielding. The numbers here are brutal. Mars surface radiation runs about 233 to 245 millisieverts per year. Earth background, about 2.4 millisieverts. That's 100 times higher. And the standard solution, bury the habitat under regolith, creates psychological hellscapes. Dark, claustrophobic bunkers where humans slowly lose their minds over multi-year missions. The Mars Icehouse concept, which won first place in NASA's 3D printed habitat challenge, Phase 1 in 2015, proposed something radically different: translucent ice shells. Water ice is an excellent radiation shield, only 5 centimeters needed to reduce UV and gamma rays to safe levels. But unlike regolith, ice is translucent. It allows natural daylight through, which is critical for circadian rhythms and psychological health. The northern regions of Mars have abundant water ice, covered by only about 30 centimeters of loose regolith. You dig down, harvest ice, and print with it. But there's an even more radical approach coming out of NASA Ames Research Center. Dr. Lynn Rothschild's Mycotecture Off-Planet project, which just received $2 million in NIAC Phase 3. Funding proposes growing habitats from fungus. Yes, mushroom houses. Specifically, Ganoderma lucidum, reishi mushroom. You bring compact dormant fungi to Mars, add water. The fungi grow to fill a scaffold in about 1 month. The 3-layer system uses an outer ice layer, a middle layer of cyanobacteria, and an inner structural layer of mycelium. Compression strength? Superior to dimensional lumber. Flexural strength? Superior to reinforced concrete. But here's the wild part. Melanin-rich fungi can absorb radioactivity. The walls themselves become biological radiation shields, and as a bonus, the same fungus produces edible mushrooms, dual-use construction material, and food source. The math doesn't care about your skepticism. This is peer-reviewed research with NASA funding. Factor 4, the psychology problem. You can build a perfect habitat and still kill everyone inside it through sheer boredom. This isn't speculation. NASA analog studies suggest optimal Mars crew size is about 9 members to minimize deviance, conflict, and dysfunction. But it's not just numbers, it's spatial design. Research on sick building syndrome shows that stable, closed, steady-state environments weaken physical abilities and reduce productivity. Humans need varying ceiling heights, distinct zones, and dynamic lighting. Green spaces reduce 37% of coughing and 23% of throat and facial dryness symptoms. AI SpaceFactory's MARSHA design specifically addresses this. Every level has at least one window, covering a full 360-degree panorama. A water-filled skylight floods the interior with indirect natural light while shielding from radiation. The Mars X House concept uses deep windows, inspired by architect Raphael Moneo, where windows are set deep within thick walls. Light enters, but the wall depth itself provides radiation shielding. Icon's Mars Dune Alpha, the 1,700 square foot habitat at Johnson Space Center, includes 4 crew quarters, a kitchen, medical bay, exercise rooms, a crop growth system, and a 77 square meter EVA sandbox for simulated surface operations. CHAPEA Mission 1 ran for 378 days, 4 crew members, 1 3D printed box, and they emerged intact. Mission 2 is happening right now, started October 2025, running through October 2026. Real humans testing real psychology in a real 3D printed Martian habitat. No evacuation possible, no lifeboat option. Just the knowledge that you cannot leave until the mission ends. Factor 5, building before arrival. This is the factor that ties everything together and the one that requires genuine autonomy. The entire Mars colonization strategy depends on habitats being fully constructed before the first human arrives. Robotic printers must land years in advance, harvest local materials, process them into construction feedstock, and build pressurized structures, all without human intervention. The communication delay makes real-time control impossible. The 26-month launch windows mean you can't send corrections or spare parts. These systems must diagnose their own problems, repair themselves, and complete construction on schedule. In February 2025, ICON launched an experiment called DuneFlow on a Blue Origin rocket to test how regolith behaves in simulated lunar gravity, because we don't actually know how Martian dirt will flow through a printer in 0.38 Gi. AI SpaceFactory achieved the first ever 3D printing of a simulated lunar road with Michigan Technological University, proof that robotic systems can lay infrastructure without human hands. And China's Deep Space Exploration Laboratory has prototyped a lunar regolith 3D printer using only on-site sourced soil, zero Earth materials. The most complete demonstration of full ISRU construction to date. The technology is converging, the demonstrations are accumulating. But here's the uncomfortable truth. No system has been tested on Mars itself. Everything we know comes from simulants and analogs. The real Martian regolith might behave differently. The real atmospheric pressure might cause unexpected failures. The real radiation might degrade printed structures faster than projected. We're engineering for a world we've never touched. Now, I already know what's happening in the comments. But what about Starship's reusability? Once SpaceX gets costs down, we can just ship prefab habitats. Let me save you some typing. Even at Musk's most optimistic long-term goal, $10 to $20 per kilogram to low Earth orbit, which has not been achieved, the gear ratio to Mars is 4.7 to 1. You need 4.7 kilograms in Earth orbit for every 1 kilogram on the Martian surface. That means even at fantasy prices, landing materials on Mars cost $50 to $100 per kilogram minimum. A 50-ton prefab habitat still runs $2.5 to $5 million in transport costs alone, before you add life support, before you add redundancy, before you scale to any meaningful population. And here's the thing about redundancy. On Mars, you need a lot of it. The nearest spare part is 7 months away, minimum. During the worst-case orbital alignment, it's closer to 9 months. If your habitat springs a leak and you don't have local manufacturing capacity, everyone dies. ISRU isn't a nice-to-have. It's not a cost optimization. It's mission-critical infrastructure without which permanent presence is impossible. Musk understood this. That's why he pivoted. The moon allows iteration every 10 days instead of every 26 months. You can test construction systems, identify failures, and ship corrections in weeks instead of years. The press releases promised Mars. The engineering required the moon first. The math doesn't care about your optimism. Here's the thing, though, and I need you to hear this clearly. Mars still matters. Everything I've described in this video represents humanity attempting something unprecedented, building a permanent presence on another world using that world's own materials. Sulfur concrete that doesn't need water, fungal structures that grow from spores, robotic printers that think for themselves, blood-based composites that turn colonists into literal building materials. This is extraordinary. This is exactly the kind of problem humans should be throwing their best minds at. The cynicism in this video isn't directed at the goal. It's directed at the hype that obscures the real work. Every breathless tweet about rocket catches, every render of pristine Martian domes that ignores the engineering nightmares beneath, every timeline that promises crude landings by dates that quietly slip by. The real heroes of Mars colonization aren't the ones getting magazine covers. They're researchers like Lynn Rothschild growing mushroom walls in NASA Ames, Gianluca Cusadis mixing sulfur concrete in a northwestern lab. The CHAPEA crews spending 378 days in a 3D printed box to generate the psychological data we desperately need. You now understand Mars construction better than 99% of people watching launch live streams. You understand why 3D printing isn't optional, it's existential. You understand the 5 technologies that will determine whether human cities rise on Martian soil or remain renders on Elon's Twitter feed. If you want the real science, not the press releases, subscribe. I do this every week. Next time, we're breaking down the Sabatier reaction, the chemical process that might let Starship refuel on Mars, and the engineering reasons it hasn't been demonstrated at scale. It's worse than you think. The hamburger still costs $48,000, but now you know what we're actually paying for.